Good morning, ma'am. My name is JBL Galleto, and I will be the one who explain about the topic of the roles of classroom assessment in the teaching learning processes. The assessment is an integral part of the instructional process where the teachers design and conduct instruction so learners achieve the specific target learning outcomes defined by the curriculum. While the purpose of assessment may be classified as assessment of learning. Assessment of learning, in my own understanding, it is a summative time of assessment used by the teacher to determine what the students have learned and a unit or chapter against specified standards or goal statement or assessment of learning is done at the end of every unit or chapter in order to certify the students' competence. Examples of assessment of learning are mastery tests, periodical tests, or for basic education achievement tests. For college, we have prelim, midterm, semifinal, and final. Assessment of learning are assessments for grading purposes, and this type of assessment are usually the one being reported. And for the assessment for learning, in my research or understanding, it is a formative type of assessment used by the teacher to inform their teaching. It may occur before, in, throughout the learning sequence to determine the progress and the gaps. It may occur before, in, throughout the learning sequence in order to determine the progress that miss learning progress and the learning gaps. From the word format, this means that the teacher examines all the topic and all the activities in class and use those evidences whether to reteach the as concept or on to the next lesson. Examples of assessment for learning are set work diagnostic tests before conducting the real discussion, Q&A during discussion, question and answer during discussion, and even quizzes. The assessment for learning results are recorded but not graded or not part of the graded. Basically, assessment for learning is done to improve the teaching and learning process. And for the assessment as learning, this is what we call self-assessment. This is also formative in nature, wherein the students are given the opportunity to monitor and critically reflect their own learning and prepare the necessary adjustment for their learning. This is a self-directed learning as well, wherein the students use their metacognitive process to think about their own learning, what strategies to support the particular learning, and the mechanism that they will use to advance that learning. Examples of assessment as learning and are reflective journals, reflection, insights. Assessment as learning is the highest form of assessment, and this is used for students to monitor their own learning progress. That's for the assessment as learning. And the specific purpose of an assessment depends on the teacher's objective in collecting and evaluating assessment data from learners. More specific objective for assessing students' learning are congruent to the following rules of classroom assessment in the teaching learning process. There are formative, diagnostic, evaluative, and motivational, each of which is discussed below. For the formative, teachers conduct assessment because they want to acquire information on the current status and level of learners' knowledge and skills or competencies. Teachers may need information about the learners prior to instruction so they can design their instructional plan to better suit the needs of the learners. Teachers may also need information on learners during instruction to allow them to modify instruction or learning activities to help learners achieve the learning outcomes. How teachers should facilitate students' learning may be informed by the information that may be acquired in the assessment results. For the formative, in my research or in my own understanding, this is where the teachers continuously monitors the students' level of attainment of the learning objectives. So this is continuous. This is progress. We don't just check the learners totally. There's a different assessment for the formative assessment. Is used during the instruction. If we can proceed or to teach a certain topic, the results of this assessment are communicated clearly and promptly to the students for them to know their strengths and weaknesses, and the progress of their learning. Formative assessment is helpful for the teacher and the students as well. To the teacher, one is that they could decide if they're going to reteach the topic. This the result of formative exam before the proceed to the next topic, and for the learners is will also be helpful, and if you help them to identify their own strengths and weaknesses and also their progress on their learning. But then again, formative assessment are every important because there are topics of course in the teaching in our prerequisite to the next topic. So this assessment allows the learners to be ready for the next topic. And for the diagnostic, teachers can use assessment to identify specific learners' weaknesses or difficulties that may affect their achievement of the intended learning outcomes. Identifying these weaknesses allows the teachers to focus on specific learners' needs and provide opportunities for instructional intervention or remediation inside or outside the classroom. The diagnostic rule of assessment may also lead to differentiated instruction or even individualized learning plan when them necessary. For the diagnostic, in my own research or through my understanding, it searches for the underlying causes of the students' learning problems that do not respond to the first aid treatment. This is used to determine the students' recurring or persistent difficulties, and it helps formulate a plan for detailed remedial instruction. So this diagnostic exams all allows the teachers, of course, to provide remedial instructions if needed for the learners. So we don't just reteach, we also have to do remedial activity wherein the learners could easily learn from the topic. This is for the diagnostic. And the next is the one who report about the evaluative.
I'm Newman H. Ligaspi. My topic about evaluative assessment. Assessment is feedback from the student to the instructor about the student learning. Evaluation. Use methods and measures to judge the student learning and understand of the materials for purpose of reading and reporting. Evaluation. Feedbacks from the instructor to the student about the student's learning. Evaluative. To be evaluative is to consider or judge something carefully. For example, assessment. For example, teacher does assessment of students' performance and provide constructive feedback. For example, evaluation. For example, The evaluation of the skills of the candidate is done before hearing him or her for the job. That's all.
Our topic was about the rules of classroom assessment and the teaching learning process. There are 4 types of rules of the classroom process assessment. 1. Formative, 2. Diagnostic, 3. Evaluative, last 4. Facilitative. Facilitative classroom assessment may affect student learning on the part of teachers. Assessment for learning provide information on student learning experiences of learners. Based on research, facilitative that shows students learn best when they are involved in their learning education dividends. Develop a facilitative learning model where students ask questions, discover answers, and apply their knowledge to a real-world problem. Students apply their math, science, and language art knowledge while using technology, teamwork, and workplace skills. As students learn concepts, they also give skills that prepare them for life. That's all for our topic. Thank you and God bless.
Good day everyone, especially to your mom. My topic is all about motivational. Motivational classroom assessment can serve as a mechanism for learners to be motivated and engaged in learning and achieving in the classroom. Grades, for instance, can motivate and demotivate learners focusing on progress, providing effective feedback, innovating assessment tasks, and using scaffolding during assessment activities. Provides opportunities for assessment to be motivating rather than demotivating. For my explanation about motivation is the process that initiates, guides, and maintains good-oriented behaviors. It is what causes you to act, whether it is giving a glass of water to reduce thirst or reading a book to gain knowledge. And when we say motivation is defined as the reason why you are doing something or level of desire you have to do something. If you want to lose height to get healthy, this is an example of motivation to improve your health.